Hello and thank you for joining us. You're listening to a We Do Talk with David Jaques. Entrepreneurism is a subject that we've talked about quite a lot since I've been doing these talks. And that's no accident since I live in Silicon Valley and have worked with many entrepreneurs over the last couple of decades. And today's guest is no exception. He is an entrepreneur. He's also a military veteran. He's the owner and founder of his own photography business, Grey Bug Photography. And he's also the host of the Creative Entrepreneurship Podcast channel. So it's a great honor to have joining me today from San Antonio in Texas, Abel Garza. So Abel, very good morning to you. Welcome to the We Do channel, and thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely, David. Thanks for having me.
When I look at your background, I see that you have started and sold several businesses, earned 2 master's degrees and several other professional qualifications. Much of that you did while you were serving in the military. So I look at this as somebody who is very capable of juggling a lot of balls in the air and doing a lot of different things. Is there any time of your life that you've only ever been focused on one thing?
I don't think so. I think I've had a multitude of things. It's just been a myriad of curiosities in my life that I've been wanting to do. And every business that I started basically started out with the intent of learning or just curiosity. And so whenever I wanted to learn about photography, I started a photography business. If I want to learn about writing, I started a jewelry business because I could talk about each piece of jewelry. When I wanted to learn more about real estate, I started a real estate business. When I wanted to learn more about graphics design, I started a t-shirt screen printing business so that we can learn more about graphics design. When I wanted to learn more about videography, well, I went to school for it also, but I wanted to learn more about videography, so we turned that into a business. We turned consulting. I wanted to learn more about business and learn more about database design and SQL and all these different languages that are incorporated into helping business. And so we started a consulting business. So it really has turned a business from my curiosity. Any business that I've had in the past has just been something that I've wanted to learn. And we've also started the creative entrepreneurship. The Creative Entrepreneur was sold to the conglomerate, let's just put it that way. And and so Creative Entrepreneurship is a rebrand that we have, and that has been solely based on the idea of helping other people, helping other businesses grow and scale their business. And that was primarily based on curiosity as well. I wanted to learn more about entrepreneurs and how they built their business, whether they did, bootstrap or how they scale their business, how they're growing their business, and how they could take an idea and turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. All those questions were just, ruminating. And I was just like, man, I want to know more about how these people grew their business into a multi-million-dollar company. And because I'm just one person and I want to know all these things. And I'm sure other people have questions as to how they can start their own business. And I realized that you don't have to be the inventor. You don't have to be the one who came up with the idea. You can just take somebody's idea, commercialize it, and turn it into a business. It doesn't necessarily have to even be your technology. There's so many places that you can go, such as technology and commercialization offices in any university, and they're everywhere. University of Texas, you got Purdue, you got all these universities that have technology departments that you can go into, look for the technology that they have invented, basically, talk to the commercialization office, and then take it and commercialize it. They may ask you for, whether or not you have upfront money, but really all they're looking for is licensing. And so if you can license that technology and turn it into some sort of business, I know I'm going off track, but there's a lot of opportunity to start a business. But that's basically what it was. I have not been able to stay. I think for the most part right now, I'm juggling 2 things, which is creative entrepreneurship and the photography business, which is Grey Bug Photography. And I'm probably thinking about doing something else. I just don't know yet.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, and I'm a little bit similar because I have not had conventional full-time employment where I work for the one company now in about 14 years, and have enjoyed doing the consulting world where I can have multiple clients and be able to make more choices and have more flexibility and more control over my life. And that's a lot of the reason why we do this. And another point that you make there, I think, is a very good one, is that in order to get more experience, to me, the two pathways are education or practical application. You go out and you take a class to learn it, or you get your hands dirty, you get your feet wet with it, and you just do it, and you learn as you go. And if you're in the work world, and I've been fortunate a couple of times to have people hire me to allow me to develop and learn new skills. So if you're that type of person, which obviously you are, where you're always looking for the next thing, you're always keeping your mind challenged, I can see why you've been doing all these things. But one thing just seems to me a little bit odd that I'd really like to ask you is that for somebody with so much curiosity and creativity and an entrepreneurial spirit, you served in the military, and it would seem that the military is much more rigid and structured. So how do you reconcile the two? How did you operate? How did you kind of get along in that type of world of the military life?
Oh, for sure. It all comes down to mindset and whether or not you're willing to incorporate multiple things into your life, because military can take a toll on you. There's certain jobs that are cake. They're easy. You get paid the same amount of money as somebody, out there in the field that is grinding and getting dirty and putting their life in serious danger in the front lines as a person handing out towels at the gym. So they're getting the same amount of money, but the person at the gym has probably got a little bit more time on his hands with regard to, doing a business on the side. The guy who's out there or the woman who's out there in the field might not have that opportunity. So it really comes down to, the time and, of course, the mindset, because if you are willing to take out that time, because it's going to take extra time, you obviously have a day job and that you have to perform. And you also have to perform in your business, because the business is not going to run itself. You have to run it. And you have to put in the time. If you don't put in the time, the business is not going to be successful. And depending on what approach you go, what type of business you're trying to do, will determine whether or not you're going to spend a lot more time or less time in your business. There's people who do a business and they can get, passive income. So where they can build it, it starts making money, and they can just sit back. And there's other people who have to be present. Like if you're a photographer, obviously you can create courses and build a passive income. You can hire other photographers and generate income that way by contracting them out. But if you are just a photographer that just wants to be present and in the moment, you have to be present. You have to be the one taking those photos. So you can't just take time out of your schedule in the military or other job to do another job. Some places, they don't allow that, especially some bigger companies. You can't just moonlight. But in the military, honestly, I want to say that the majority of my supervisors knew I had something on the side, but I never promulgated that. I never put that out in the open because it never affected my performance at work. And so the only time it really affected my performance was when I was going through a divorce. I was going to school at the same time. I was raising 2 kids by myself. I was supporting my brother, and I was working full time and building that business. So that was really the only time. And I want to say it was a good 2 years or so where I started to see that there was a decline in the military part of it. But I still had to maintain that grit, that grind. But the good thing about going through that is the perseverance that I was able to see in myself, because a lot of times people get put into situations that force them to persevere and do the things that they need to do, not that they want to do. And before you know it, you start to realize, man, I was capable of doing that. I'm capable of doing anything. If I can go through a divorce, go to school, raise 2 kids, go to a full-time job, build a business, and do all of that obviously I was getting a lot less sleep, but but you know what? It did take a toll on me, because after a short period of time, it was just overwhelming. But you know, you have to put things in. Obviously, that was a unique situation where everything was going on at the same time. But if you're just working your job and you're trying to build a business, you got to put in effort in both areas. You can't just sit back and think that like you're going to start a business, put the name out there, and then people are just going to come to you. You have to grind, and you have to ask yourself mentally whether or not that is going to be a viable option for you. Are you willing to sacrifice the time that it takes to be away from your family? Are you willing to put in the time to build your business and call people and do the sales? Are you willing to be able to grind? Because if you're not, then that's part of the problem. That's part of the issue that you will have, is that you have to really ask yourself if you're, even if it's making money. So if you make more money, what are you going to do with it? You're going to reinvest it. You're going to spend it. What if you get too successful? You know, are you going to be able to provide for your customers? There's all kinds of things that you need to ask yourself mentally before you even start. And I always tell people when they come on the podcast is, and I preach this all the time, is figure out who you are, what you're going to do, and how you're going to get there. Because if you look at yourself introspectively and understand who you are as a person, and I don't say that, I guess I say that in a way to where you really have to ask the questions of like, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? Who am I as a person before you really start to figure out what you want to do? Because people will tell you, no, just do your passion. Just do, you know, what you love, which is great if you're a business owner and you don't have, and you want to put all the time and energy into that. But sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and you got to work your job, and you want to build a business, and you want to go to school, and you got to do all these things. There's things that you just have to do. A lot of times we don't have the luxury of doing what we want to do. A lot of times we have to wait, you know, of what we want to do. I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to do my military career, get my retirement. I've been able to just do whatever I want, which is great. I love it. I've been so curious in building businesses that I have a good conversant understanding of a lot of different things. So I can make money if I want to. And I think a lot of times that has to be your mindset. You know, what do you want to do? And eventually how you're going to get there is just put the goals in place and then just work your way backwards. And that's just what I say. You know, if you wanted to learn more about graphics design, what do you need to learn about graphics design? You got to go to school, or you're going to whatever. I built the business. That's how I learned. But you know what? You can build a business with no money. You know, you can start a business with no money. So if you want to learn about it, all you have to do is start a business.
What you're talking about, I think, is it's all about investment. And a lot of the things you're saying, it's investment in time. And
Yes.
yeah, if you don't have the money to start a business, but you have the idea, you have the time, you have the drive, you have the creativity, that you can just put the effort into it. And these days you can actually start a business with very little money and be able to achieve a lot with relatively small amount of either your own money or friends and family that might support you or whatever, until you can generate revenue in that business. But the big investment is the time, and it's the passion and the focus. So all of those things are very much in line with a lot of the things I've seen here in the Valley. So Abel, I do want to ask you a little bit about your military career. I mean, you've clearly done so many different things. You have such a brain for business, a mind which is very good on the business side. What led to you enlisting in the military, and how long did you serve?
What led to the idea, I was 21 years old, so I was very young. And I want to say I was definitely a late bloomer mentally. You know, I was just a very naive to the world. I grew up in a small town south of Texas, and there was practically the bowels of Texas, and so nothing was able to get up. That was like and then all of a sudden I was regurgitated into the world, and then I found out that I moved to San Antonio, Texas, which was kind of a culture shock for me, and realized that there was more to this world than just being in a small town and knowing everybody, and there was more people. Because, back when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones or internet, and we wouldn't have information that we have now. And so when I realized that I need to do something with my life, I guess it was around the age of, I was actually 21. I was 21 years old, early 21. It was kind of like a light switch. It just snapped. All of a sudden, somebody flicked the switch, and I was like, I got to do something with my life. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the skills. There was nothing in my town that would really offer me an opportunity to progress and do things that I wanted to do. Didn't know anything about business, but I did start a business when I was 16 years old. So I had the drive, and I had the I guess the knowledge of what I needed to do somewhat to start a business. At that time, I had two or three businesses that I was working from age 16 to 18. And then I think from 18 to 21, I was working, earned income, fast food restaurants, stuff like that. And then so I remember I was working at Pizza Hut, and I guess this was the turning point for me. To make a long story short, I was working at Pizza Hut, and I remember that I was a waiter there, and I was serving a group of people. They were from out of town. I think they were German or Swedish or something, but they were drinking a lot. That's all I know. And so I remember I went to go give them the ticket, the bill, and then I gave them a different one for whatever I thought it was separate. And then she said, "Can you consolidate these?" And I totally freaked out. I was like, "What the hell?" I said, "I don't know what consolidate means." I was like, "What the hell is wrong?" And as soon as she said that, it just clicked like a light switch. Somebody had just flicked a switch and said, "I don't know shit. I don't know anything." And from that moment on, it was my goal to learn as much and everything as possible. And I realized how ignorant I was, how naive I was at that time, and how I just needed to get my stuff together, and I needed to change my life. From that moment on, all I did was study. All I did was learn. I was at the library every day. Everything that I thought I had learned in high school, I didn't. Everything that I learned was self-taught. It was all library. The first book I read was Word Power Made Easy, Norman Lewis. And I read that from cover to cover, and I read it like 3 or 4 times. I just learned every single phrase, every word, every root word, every Greek word, every Latin word. And it just like embedded in my head. And it changed my life because it changed my perspective. It changed the way I look at life. And so as soon as I read that book, I said, there's things that got to change. So I joined the military. I was on like a delayed program. It was 6 months later. Got into the military. In fact, before I got into the military, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? I had reservations for sure afterwards. But as soon as I got there, I was sitting on my bunk, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I even here? And then soon after, I went to start learning my career. And then as I got into the military and I started to understand it's just like a regular job, it's a career that you have. And many people who are in the military can attest to this, like if they learn programming or security detail, or, even computer security, cybersecurity, all these different jobs in the military offer you the opportunity to learn. And so in the career that I decided to go into was reports and analysis and logistics. So logistics and then reports and analysis. So that's the part that I went in. So I learned a lot about computers. I learned a lot about how things work in the military with regard to logistics. So it was a great job. Loved it. And gave me the opportunity to build other businesses while I was in the military. There was times in the military where I didn't have a business, where I was focused on school, or I was focused on my career. I didn't do a good job in promotion. That was one of the things that I just didn't care about. I didn't care about promotion because I had a business. I was making money on the side. I didn't care about making more money in the military. And in fact, and I'm not condoning this, I'm not saying that you should, but me being a lower level employee gave me that opportunity to just not have as much. I was basically cooking fries. Let's just put it that way. I was the McDonald's fry guy. That's what I was. But as far as, the hierarchy, I wasn't the CEO. I wasn't the manager. I wasn't that type of employee. And so, of course, as I got older and I was in the military longer, I had to have more responsibility, and I was supervising and all that other stuff. But that comes with the tenure of being in the military. But that's really what changed it. That little phrase that she said, can you consolidate this, and this kind of the trajectory just kind of pushed me into the military. The military is kind of what opened me up to different cultures and give me the opportunity to look at things from a different perspective.
And that is a lot of what is actually going on today in the world of work, and the shifting paradigm, and this last few years with COVID lockdowns and people moving to remote work and people moving away from conventional employment. And we hear a lot about mass resignations, people are resigning, and I actually think there's a lot of burnout going on, that people in corporate jobs are just getting so burnt out on doing the same thing, not really giving them the opportunities and not really giving them the growth experiences, which I think is really important, is that you can learn more from your job, learn new skills, reinvent yourself every now and then. So I do think that the side hustle is something which is happening a lot. There's a lot of it going on. A lot of it we don't really know about. Many people that are working full-time jobs are doing their own thing. They're doing their own side hustle, and they're thinking, what can I do next? So I guess my next question to you would be, if anybody is out there and is not happy and not fulfilled in what they're doing, what piece of advice would you give them to really reinvent themselves and do what they want to do and do what they love?
They really have to ask themselves if that's what they're willing to do. Ask themselves whether or not that's what they want to do as far as a business is concerned. Reinventing yourself, that has to happen within. You can't really get somebody to quit smoking until they decide to quit smoking. You can't have somebody who it's the same question that you would ask yourself. You need to work out. You need to be healthy. You need to not procrastinate. Well, why do we do it? You know what you need to do. You need healthy. You need to go to the gym, and you need to do the things that you need to do before it gets too expensive. I always say that anyways, but that's really what needs to happen. You need to have that mindset and ask yourself, are you willing to continue doing what you're doing? And if you are, then that's where you're at. But you also kind of have to ask yourself, are you unwilling? Are you unwilling to continue being unhealthy? Are you unwilling to, make amends with your relationship and make sure that your relationship is great? There's all types of things that you need to do as far as mindset is concerned, to make that transition. It just doesn't happen. Sometimes people are put into situations that cause them to persevere. And so they're having to do that. They know that they have to do it. Like when I was going through all that, I looked at myself in the mirror and I asked myself, can I really do this? And I said, I have to. I have no choice. I have 2 kids that are depending on me. I got a business that's going to fail if I don't work it. I got a job that I got to go to put food on the table. And there's all types of things that I needed to do. But putting me in that situation offered me the opportunity to know what I am capable of. And so it gave me that perception, or that idea of understanding that if I wanted to build a business, I know I can do it. I know I can do it because that's what I would want to do. You have to really just figure out who you are, what you're going to do, and how you're going to get there. And when I say that, I really mean that when you figure out who you are as a person, you kind of have to go into that area as well, which is to really dig deep and look at yourself and figure out what you're willing and unwilling to do. It's easy to get so wrapped up into what you're doing on a daily basis that you forget those important things, those important details in your life that really make a difference. We know what we need to do. The question is whether or not you're willing to do them. And once you answer that question, I think that's what will be the turning point in your life.
What I think here is that there are some people who are actually very content to work the same job for 25 years, stick in the same job, wait out until retirement, get their pension, whatever, and they're content with that, and they're happy with that, and they have enough money to be able to live an okay life, they have stability at home and that type of job, that they don't really have the aspirations. And one of the things I've had to learn is that wouldn't work for me. But that doesn't mean that I should be critical of somebody who's happy and content in that situation, because we need those people. But the fact that that wouldn't work for me, I always have to be looking at what is the next thing, where can I grow, and you're clearly very much the same. I think you're probably more so than me, if I'm honest about it. But I think that it's not up to anybody to really be able to criticize somebody for wanting to do more or not wanting to do more, as long as it is that honest, come from the heart, this is what I want. And if somebody says, I'm really happy where I'm at, let them be happy.
Yeah.
But I actually think for most people, and particularly people in the corporate world that don't really have the opportunity for that growth, many people are not happy. And that's why we're seeing people shifting, taking control of their lives and moving more to independent work and the gig economy. And I don't know about you, but I see that growing even more. What would you say?
Well, entrepreneurship is a very personal thing. You either want to be able to create something and build it and do something that you have an idea for, or you're okay with just cooking the fries. You know what I mean? If you're okay with just cooking fries and no responsibility, and you're able to clock in and check out, and you're good with that, that's fine. That's your thing. I wouldn't downplay that, because then you have your idea is to spend more time with your family. Your idea is to be able to have time to do certain things that you want to do in your own personal life, and not have to worry about the vicissitudes of entrepreneurship or the assiduousness of having to work 14, 16, 18 hours a day on your real job and in the business. And so you're looking at this from the perspective, well, at least I would say that if you're doing what you're doing, it's because, that you're okay with that, as far as earned income. Many people earn a good living, with earned income. And if you went to school and you have your degree and you're doing what you're doing, you love, and you're in the management, or you're in a position where, you're working for a Fortune 500 company, and you have a good salary, you have a pension, you have a retirement, that's fine. The question is whether or not you want to start a business, really. You can always use your money to start a side hustle. But that's really a question as to whether or not you want to delve into that. It all really comes down to mindset, what you want to do and how you think about it. Some people are not willing to do that. Some people don't want to do that. They don't want the responsibility. They just want to cook the fries. And
to me, it comes down to all of those personal choices and what are the things that are important: time, money, happiness.
Yeah, because you think about it like this. Time, you're young. We have a lot of it. We have a lot of time whenever, we're young. We don't have any money, but we have our health. And then as you grow older, you don't have the money so much. You have your health still, you got a little bit of time, but as you get older, you don't have the health, you have the time, and you don't have, I say time as in like when in your mid, 30s, that you're like at the peak of your life, where you're working, and you don't have a lot of time. You have your health, and you have money, but you can't really, spend it the way you would want to. And then when you get older in life, you have the time, you have the money, because you've been working all your life, but you don't really have the health. So the goal for me is to have all three. And so if you can make it to the point where you can beat the race by having the time, having the money, and having your health, then you're in good shape.
Words of wisdom and great principles to follow. So, Abel, what's next on the plate for you? So, gray bug photography is what you're doing right now. Are there any other ideas? Where do you think you might be a couple of years down the road?
That's a good question. Well, gray bug photography has been in business for the past 3 years, and it really has been the most prolific on its third year. Everything has been set in place to reinvest. And so we built our business and assets significantly since we started. It is just now really starting to turn into the black. Either you spend it or the government's going to take it. Is usually how it is. But for gray bug photography, it's going to take. I don't know if I want to take it into. I don't know if I want to take it into the multi-million-dollar range. I think I'm just going to keep it where it is and then sell it. Does it have the capability? Of course, all photography businesses do. Creative Entrepreneurship is the podcast that we been doing. It's not monetized right now. I think I want to just keep it for now, just to the point where we're talking and you and I don't have to worry about, some words from our sponsor. Obviously, that's a great way to make money. I have friends who do podcasts and they make a ton of money doing that. Being that you really have to figure out, where your where the importance lies and where your priorities are, will kind of determine that. But as far as in the future, what I want to do is I just want to work the photography business for another 5 years or so and retire. I really do. I just want to be able to go travel, do what I want to do, binge watch Netflix all day. No, I'm just kidding. You shouldn't do that. That's a bad thing to do. But really, I think that's what I want to do.
And there's always the possibility that you have your plan right now, you execute on that plan, and then 3 or 4 years down the road, you get an idea for something else and you're off doing that. So I'd love to keep track of you because I don't see you being the sort of guy that just sits back and does nothing.
I'm not. I'm not.
Abel, thank you so much for all of your thoughts here. Great perspective, great words of wisdom, and a lot of good things that I think a lot of people can really benefit from hearing. If anybody wants to reach you, what's the best way of getting in touch with you and finding you?
Yeah, sure. So you can go to greybugphotography.com. That's GREY photography.com. Or you can also reach me at creativeentrepreneurshiп.net, tcepodcast.net, and 1-800-GRAYBUG. Or I should say 844-GRAYBUG. Sorry about that. 844-GRAYBUG.
Thanks again, Abel. Great to chat to you today, and all the best for the future. And I'd love to keep in touch and see what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comments below, subscribe to our channel. I'll see you next time. We upload a We Do Talk every week. So if you enjoyed this one, please subscribe and leave your comments below.